Well, how are we going, year 8? Making art at home is a lot of fun. You just need a small space. You don't need a lot of... I'm out in my garage here. This is my dog Robbie. He's a black Scottish Terrier. He's about 4.5 years old. He's a really loyal companion dog. And you know, we're doing animals at the moment, other living things. So we asked you to draw either your pet or another animal. I've got an animal close at hand and he means a lot to me, so I decided to draw him. So I took a photo of Robbie because he doesn't actually sit still much. I know he's sitting still right now, but if I put him down on the ground, I was trying to draw him, he moves the ground way too much. But I took heaps and heaps of photos because you notice his ears go up and down? He tends to, I know, he tends to always put his ears down when he sees a camera. I don't know why. It's just a thing in him, his sixth sense in him. So I took lots and lots of photos and I just love this kind of, he's quite shaggy and happy and his tail's wagging and he's just such a happy dog. So I've decided to go with that photo, and this was when he was really quite woolly in the middle of winter and he's quite shaggy. So I really wanted to capture that shagginess. So I did a pretty shaggy kind of scribbly drawing of him. I thought I'd just go with, you know, rapid, loose pencil sketching to capture all this sort of hair that he's got. So I'm really pleased with the result, actually. And then what we do is we transfer your animal onto the canvas, but don't worry about the background yet, right? Just transfer the animal only, because we've got a plan for the background, and that's what I want to talk about now. We then said choose one of two artists, either choose Franz Marc or Henri Rousseau. So if you choose Henri Rousseau, remember this painting, which you've done your assignment on? Lots of foliage. You can choose any Henri Rousseau painting, by the way. You don't have to do this one. You can choose any one you like, okay? But I just thought I'd grab this one because it's got lots of foliage and it's got rain. It's a tiger walking through the forest in a thunderstorm. It's quite smooth and sharp and defined and beautifully painted, but it's not really going to suit Robbie, okay? So I think that Franz Marc is going to suit Robbie because Franz Marc is more softer and more gestured, and there's a little more texture to a Franz Marc painting, and I'm really drawn to the bright colours in a Franz Marc painting. Yellow, he said, was a female colour, blue, he said, was a male colour, or the masculine, and red represented the violence of the world. And then if you have a look in the background, I mean, she's a cow, so she's a girl, so she's yellow. Interestingly, she's got a little blue male spot in her. And then the background is kind of a combination of reds, blues and yellows. It's just such a beautiful painting with that purple sky. I just couldn't go past it. So what I've done is I've drawn my picture of Robbie onto the canvas, and we showed you how to do that in another video. And then I've drawn the background of this painting onto my canvas. So I've got Robbie here, and then I've got the bits of the Franz Marc painting. Now I've had to adapt things. I left out these trees, and I've had to adapt and squash things and leave a few things out and make a few things up just to sort of get the essence of the background of his yellow cow painting. So I'll bring the camera in close now and I'll show you what we do next. Alright, so we're just going to film this area. I don't need to see my head. So let's just get into what to do. You'll notice that if we have a look at the Franz Marc painting, I'll just switch this light off for a second because there's a lot of light reflecting. But when you get into this painting, the sky is purple. The sky is bright purple and goes toned down with white to a beautiful mauve. And then the mountains are blue, and I left these trees out. I just decided to leave them out. I didn't see a need to do that. And then down here I drew in some of this. So if we have a look, I've got the lines in the sky where Franz Marc divided the tones up. I've drawn those in, and then there's 1, 2, 3, 4 mountains, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. I've changed them a little bit, and that's fine. This sort of hook swirl here, I don't quite know what it is, but it seems to counter the tail. So I put that there, and there's Robbie's tail there. So sort of lined up nicely. A few little nice little convenient things happened for me. coming down. There are some other animals here grazing in the background. I decided to put them in. I might put the third one actually because I think it's probably necessary. I find this graphite stick's really good to draw on the canvas. So I'm going to just put that third little cow in there, just while I'm thinking of it. And it's in two-tone. I think it's a cow, I don't know. There it is, done. And then all this sort of foliage, it looks like a aloe vera plant just down here. There's this kind of weird yellow shape, and what I've done is I've chopped it off and I've put it on that side. So what's the first thing? Well, the general rule with painting is that you paint background to foreground. So the first thing we'll paint is the thing that I would imagine to be the furthest thing away, and that's the sky. After the sky, we'll paint the mountains. After the mountains, we'll paint what we call the midground. So we've got the background, and we'll paint the midground, and then we'll paint the foreground. The very last thing I'm going to paint is the dog. He gets painted last. I'm going to paint him blue, actually, because even though you saw that Robbie's black, Robbie's a boy. So Franz Marc would have painted him blue because he said blue in his paintings represents masculinity or male. So, but I might put some touches of other colours into him in the same way Franz Marc did. Well, I've got some paint. I've got my paint squeeze out here. I haven't got too much squeezed out. I've got a couple of brushes. And the first thing I want to do is I want to do that mauve background. So I'm going to pick up some red just here and some blue. I'll just move this into where you can see it. I need more blue than red, I would suspect. But anyway, we'll see how we end up. And I'm going to add a little bit of water. Got myself a good little old water cup here. Now it's about now that I'm going to grab some white, and that's pretty.
Going to match that Franz Marc painting. So what I'm going to do is I've mixed white with it here. Hopefully I'm keeping all this on camera. I'm going to paint pretty much. I'm going to block in the colour and not do much tonal work. Yeah, I'm just going to block the colour in. Add a little bit of water to it because that helps it to flow. Now if I paint over Robbie's eyebrow, if I paint over that, that's fine because if anything, he's got to sit in front of all of this. So I'll just have to remember to paint a little bit more of him in. Now I'm going to picking it up and blending it in. Now if you've got too much white on your brush, I've got a little bit too much pale colour on the brush, so I might wash my brush in a second. But look, that's not blue. He obviously saw the mountains as a male thing, so which is interesting. So I'm just going to add a little bit. I'm adding white to just about everything with the Franz Marc to begin with. I'll come back later and darken everything up, but actually that's a little bit, even that's still a little bit dark. There we go. So at the moment, what I want to do is I just want to get, watch this. So what I do, a little trick I do, might start a new one out here, pick up a bit of that, mix it in, a bit more yellow, that's better, that's a better green, and then I'll blend it in. So we're just blending in the tone, and then it becomes, when I look at the painting, let me go and wash. I've got a paint shirt, so I can wipe my brushes on the paint shirt, which is pretty cool. Then we need this orange. The red's quite powerful, it's obliterating that orange quite strongly.
And again, I'm going to add white to the orange because in the Franz Marc painting it's quite pale. And it's almost the same colour as the ochre actually, the background. Okay, so there's the orange. I'm going to add a bit more white to it. Just blend it in. What's there? That's Robbie's tail. And blend it up to the green. So there it is there. And so you just work your way down, basically. Next thing I'm going to do is that bluey green hook there. I'll do it now. Pick up a little bit of blue in that. So you can be blending colours now. So I'm holding this at a funny angle because I'm trying to get it on camera for you guys. What I would do is if I was painting this in a minute when I stop rolling the camera, I'm actually going to find something to put behind the canvas. Let's put those in the water. Whoops. And keep the water away from your laptop too. And I'm going to paint like that. And that's going to help me get at a good angle. Now I've got to stop it sliding. I'll figure something out. I know. bit of sticky tape. There you go. That should hold it. And then I can paint away. So do the background first. Do the furthest away thing. You do the sky, then you do the mountains, then you do the mid-ground, then you do the foreground. And don't do your animal yet. Don't do your animal until you got all the background in. If the mountains have got 3 tones of blue in them, have a look at this. These mountains have, you know, 3 or 4 different tones of blue, from really light blue to really dark blue. So what I've done is I've just sort of painted them a mid-blue and done a little bit of tone work on it. I've just had a look at the video footage and realised that by the camera being over that side and me being right-handed, I was blocking out everything that I was doing. Now I can't redo that part of the painting, but what I can do is demonstrate a bit more, so you get to see how to go about it. So I am going to demonstrate a bit more painting. So I'm now going to do all this sort of coloured area here and all here, because there's quite a lot of colour to deal with. Okay, so it's good to have a rag to wipe your brush on, because when you wash your brush, you get a little bit of paint around this metal bit here, and it's just good to wipe it all off, so it doesn't interfere with your other colours. So how do we make orange? We have yellow and red. Here it is. It's pretty much almost the same colour as the canvas, believe it or not. So there's all different shades of orange and yellow and white through there. So I'm just going to go for a mid tone. And again, like I said before, I'm going to paint over Robbie a little bit with it. So because his hair is kind of like, it's like that, like my fingers. And what we need is the background to come in behind it. So for example, if I was going to paint this tartan behind Robbie's fur, which would work because he's a Scottish dog, I'd paint the tartan first and then I'd paint his hair back over the top. So I'm going to paint in and over his hair a little bit. Now I'm up to this green area. An update. So wipe my brush on the rag again, and I'm going to mix up that green. Where was that? That was over here. It's drying pretty quick.
See, I mix a little bit at a time. And a little bit of water. And I'm going to lay that green in there. And those animals are red. Reddy orangey colour, so that green sits in behind them. Like that. And sort of works its way up that way now.
That green has white blending into it. So I'm going to now wash my brush out. You don't have one of these brushes in your art kit, but you do have a big version of that. So just use that, okay? And now I'm going to pick up the white, add a little bit of water to it. And I'm going to just sort of blend it in. While the green's wet. And I'm going to feather it across. And this is called wet into wet. Okay, it's a method of painting, and I'll get a different brush and I'll pick up that green, and I need to lay it back down again because I did get rid of too much of it. There was a bit too much. The white was a bit strong. So do these things as you go. And how do you darken green? You don't darken, as we learnt from painting our colour wheels last year. You don't darken a colour by adding black to it. You don't lighten it by adding white to it. I'm putting white on it because Franz Marc did, but I can see that he's darkened his green with blue. So now's a good time to copy what he does there and blend that in. Okay, so is there any? Yeah, it is. There's green on the other side. So just remember that before you go adding black and white to a colour, think about the recipe of the colour and use that recipe to darken and lighten that colour, because that way you get really nice bright versions of it. So for example, if you want to lighten green, add yellow, add more yellow, because green is made from blue and yellow. So if you want to lighten green, add more yellow. If you want to darken it, add more blue. And that way you won't muddy it. You won't make it all sort of muddy and grey like. And the same with orange, and I'm talking about secondary colours here, so same with orange and purple. If you want to lighten orange, you add more yellow. If you want to darken orange, add more red. Purple, you want to darken purple, you add more blue into it, so it'll go like an indigo. And then if you want to lighten purple, you add red to it first before you start adding white. You do use white, but you know, it takes the colour in a whole different direction. It's all about control. You've just got to have control the whole time. And don't ever use just pure colour. Always mix another colour into it. There's always something you can do to a red or a blue or a yellow. Don't just lay down pure red. He hasn't laid down pure red, so don't you do it. Okay. So here it is. Done. There's my image. And I've replaced the cow with my dog. So let's get up close. Oh, I spilled some, see these water spots? That's where I was washing my brush and some water hit it. Just let it dry. There's that three-toned purple sky. And I love the way the mustardy yellow goldy colour is showing through. Really warmed the whole thing up. So as you can see, my dog hasn't been painted yet. So he looks a bit looks a bit untidy actually with all the pencil marks and everything. But you know, I'm really happy with just the amount of tone I was able to put in as I painted this already. If we go here, there's those, I don't know if they're deer or they're cows. I'm talking about these animals here. And then here I've painted them in here, that little scene. I love that little, Friendsmark does that a bit. Another artist, Mark Chagall, does that, used to do that as well. They put a little side scene, a little other little story in the background. And we've got this other little story about these three deer that are grazing. I'm really happy with what I was able to achieve. See that mountain? See the dots on the, where is it? See those two dots on the mountain there? I've just roughly put them in. I'm not sort of I'm not trying to finish it yet. This is my first layer of paint. I will come back and paint over some of this. Not all of it. Pretty happy with a lot of it. But I'll definitely repaint the sky. And I'll definitely fix up this section here. It's a bit rough. When I look at the actual one, there's a lot of different colour in there. There's that green and that orange. And here, I haven't done a very good job of it. So I'm going to come back later on. But I'm pretty much ready to now move on and paint the dog. So that's a fair effort. And you know, look at my palette. I've got all my colours. You can see all my colours that I've been mixing up. I love sort of putting the painting and the palette together and going, oh wow, look at that. It's quite obvious, you know, whose palette this is after looking at this painting. So anyway, good luck with it, guys.